Welcome into King's Table, guys, where we talk about movies, geek stuff, comics. What else?
Just you name it, man. Anything geeky?
Geek stuff.
Geek stuff.
You know, that's what we like. We like the nerdy stuff that is cool now, even though we were into it before everybody else
It was. We were into it before it was cool.
Yes, before it was cool, when we got kicked and made fun of for it. But I went and saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Oh, really?
Did you?
I did, in fact.
I knew you would. And the worst part is we didn't get to go together.
We didn't.
We tried to coordinate schedules and it didn't work.
Didn't happen.
No, like we texted and times and you were working and I was drinking.
Drinking?
Well, I was day drinking. And I was like, you know, it's a great idea to go to a matinee. And Chris was like, I have responsibilities. Yes. And I was like, I have a responsibility to go see Chris Pratt.
I went to, he's at me, yes. I went and saw it at San Toby. You could drink there.
I know, I love that place. But not a sponsor.
Not, you could.
They definitely could. No, what did you think of the movie overall, just right out the gate?
Right out the gate, I walked out thinking, was this better than the first one?
Yes, it was.
And at first I was like, yes. Actually, at first I was like, no. And then I was yes. And then I'm like, you know what? They're equals. They're two different movies. They're not all the same. They're just like another installment of Guardians, which was amazing.
You bipartisan punk.
No, I slept on it, and then I'm like, you know what?
Oh, I've slept on it too. It's been out for a little while.
They were equals.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is better than the first one. And not that the first one's bad. Like, if we ranked it in Phil heads,
okay.
Number 1 gets an 8.5.
8.5.
Number 2 gets a 9.5.
9.5.
9.5.
What's to get that extra?
We and you discussed this in another video where we were talking about what we think might happen and such. And the humor was there that I wanted.
Yes, there's a lot. Which is good.
Marvel does such a great job of adding humor, something that DC can never do.
Yes.
The colors, the CGI, all the effects were amazing. But my favorite part is, and I was actually worried about this, I was going into it with lower expectations. I knew I would like it, but I was afraid they weren't going to get Ego right. And the one cool thing is I was sitting here going, okay, Ego's a planet, and how are they going to do this when they make him into a human? And they did such a great job with how they developed him on the creation stuff. It was a brain, and like how he wanted to like murder the whole system, and he egotistical, celestial, all those things, and they did such a good job. But the other thing was the Easter eggs were insane. Gunn does such a great job of putting them in movies and making sure they're there, but he also does it to where there's enough reference where, like, we don't need a Howard the Duck movie. It's never going to happen. Get over it, people. But he does such a good job that that's all we need. We get the little tidbits, and we're happy. He also answers the fans in ways. Because remember the first one, the cocoon with Adam?
Yes.
Remember one of the 5 cutscenes?
He's in the cut.
That was a joke by him.
The collector, yeah.
That was a joke. And then he realized people loved it, and then he realized, well, that makes sense to have Adam Warlock. So he created it at the end of that one, which was great. Now, I've heard weird theories on that whole thing. Like, did Chris Pratt actually sleep with, the gold lady, and then that happened? That's a theory that's out there. You can find it in places, which is not true. But the 5 cutscenes were great. Everything about it was so much fun, and I watched it, and there was never a dull point. There was never a part where I was, like, falling out of it.
Yeah.
It just had everything I wanted. And each character had an interaction with another character that just made the movie even better. Watching Rocket and Star-Lord sort of argue and like have those tussles but be best friends. Watching Groot, baby Groot having fun the whole movie, like running around and them having to, they were a family having to raise him.
Yes.
And then watching the Gamora and her sister, they're getting in arguments. But my favorite was Mantis and Drax.
Yeah, it was great.
They were the best.
You're so ugly.
Oh, you're
ugly.
You're ugly.
You're beautiful.
I like women with more meat on their bones. Like that. Those scenes were epic, and that's what made the film better, I think. And because I rewatched the first one right when I got home.
Yeah. And
I watched it again, and I was like, it was great. And maybe, it's because I had to dust it off a little bit and go back to it. But I still think number 2, because it helped bring them into the MCU a lot better, which is what I think we needed. Which, if we really want to talk about one little thing that I think is going to happen, they helped bring Thor Ragnarok together very well.
Oh,
Because if you notice the Thor Ragnarok like trailer and everything,
Yeah.
all the letters are just like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh,
a lot
sure.
more colors, all that. It's in space.
Sure.
And that's going to connect it
And
even
I
more.
guess when they crash land on that first planet.
That's the planet Hulk, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you? I was also happy because we got into this, and this is on a B-roll, people. You've never ever gonna see this clip
Really?
where me and Chris were in here talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, because I talked too much and we cut it out of a video. But we talked about the old Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
And how me and my stepdad Doug got in a huge argument.
That's right.
About when Guardians of the Galaxy was announced, that I was like, oh, it's going to be these ones. And he's like, those aren't the real Guardians of the Galaxy. And I was like, no, mine are, and yours aren't, old man.
Yeah.
And they were in there. And
They
I
were.
was so happy.
And it sounds like they're going to be in the next one.
They are, and they're going to bring them all together. And they did. That was great because it just showcased that they have more they could do with this story.
Yeah. And part of the other movie, or the new movie I liked was... it was fun. It was a great fun movie.
Fun.
And halfway through the movie, I had totally forgotten that there hadn't been like a villain yet.
Yeah,
You know?
that's another thing.
Whoa, wait a minute! There's no bit. Like, what's going on? Yeah, we had this little dispute with the gold people, but that was
and
really
the
anything.
squid thing in the beginning, and that was it.
And there really wasn't like, and it was
They were just
fun.
on the run.
It was just this is great. And then halfway through, I was like, oh.
I think that's what made it better too, though, because it was building up, and movies have lost a lot in over cinema's years of the build up and the development of characters and the development of the story, where we watch so many movies where the plot line's already in place for us, where it's like they start here, there's going to be a villain introduced, we're going to see the villain the whole film on his arc, and then we're going to see the heroes on their arc, and they're going to meet somewhere and fight, and then it's over. And it did that, but in a way where it kept you guessing. You didn't just go, oh, that person's going to die, or oh, this or that, like a horror movie where you knew every little aspect that was going to happen. Yeah. And that's, I think, why it was a better film. The soundtrack was great. Every bit of it was fun, and people were laughing the whole time. Nothing was falling on deaf ears, and it just hit on every point, I think, and that's why it had a higher grade.
Yeah.
Why would you say the first one's better?
I didn't say it's better.
Okay. Equal. So what made you flip back and forth? Why were you... Was it because right when you walked out, you were like, oh, that's the best because I just saw it?
Yeah, I was like, oh, so it was good. But then, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain because like it wasn't really a sequel, like I was saying. It didn't like continue the story that they started, really. Mm-hmm. It was something totally new, something different. It was just another installment, like another episode almost.
That makes sense, yeah, because it doesn't feel like a prequel. I don't want to say that word because you're finding out more backstories of the people while moving forward with them, which is, I think, another thing that Gunn did very well, where it didn't feel logged and watered down and like you're like, oh, we're hearing about this guy's story forever. And as a comic book fan, they changed the little things and took liberties, but they did such a good job. I didn't care. And I mean, if you want to like count brass tacks and be nitty gritty about it, I guess you can argue them. But this was something where they did a good job with it. Like if they changed a story here or there, I wasn't like, oh, why did they change that? But like some of the Easter eggs were so great. Where even like when they showed the starry eyes, where they're talking about eternity and everything, it opens up the possibilities so much, not just for Volume 3, but all of the MCU, which is I think what excites me the most.
I'm more sad that there's only 3. There's only going to be 3 Guardians.
Well, yeah, but you're going to see them in Infinity Wars, so...
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. And I mean, but also, you don't want it to be like Jaws, where there's like 20 of them, right? I mean, you need it to end.
Maybe 6, like Star Wars.
Trilogies are usually it. That's what they're meant to be.
Give
usually.
me 6 Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, maybe they will. You never know. Maybe they'll add more. I mean, the contracts can be changed, and there's always more story to write. And maybe they meant there's just these 3 for these Guardians.
I know.
They might do other ones with, the other Guardians.
Yeah, it's possible. I didn't realize. I totally forgotten, or even I don't even think I knew Stallone was going to be in it.
You didn't? Well, see, I knew he was in it, but I was wondering who he was. And I like that Jeff Goldblum's character was in it, which
briefly at the end credits.
Yeah, and well, he's also I believe, and I could be wrong, and everybody hate on me in the comics, but I believe he's in the bar when they're in the Golden Hooker Palace on the planet with Howard the Duck. I think he's in the very background, like a tiny little blip that you could barely see. But like I said, that was me probably, I think, searching for Easter eggs during the movie, because I'm one of those guys. I'm like looking for every little detail, and I thought I saw him there. I could have been wrong because there's weird space people everywhere in these movies. But great job, great film.
What was anything bad about it?
The only things I would say that were bad about it were once we found out Ego was the bad guy, I think it took a while for Chris Pratt to like get going with the fight, and I think
Yeah.
that was the only downfall. I think was the fight that we knew how it was. You knew how it was going to end, but you also knew that they made it seem like, oh, is somebody gonna die? Like somebody did, but
Yeah.
like you know what I mean. Like you're also, and I think it was. That's where physics comes into play that bothers me. Like, it's like, how did they all escape that? It makes no sense, but I get it. And I think the other downfall was I didn't want to see the guy that died die.
Okay, so this is a spoiler-free episode. Probably should have said that at the beginning.
Do you want to say who it was?
I mean, we could.
Yondu died.
Okay.
And I
Yondu
was
dies.
so sad about it.
I was so too. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I love that they brought in the big mohawk. I loved everything, but you know what? Even though he died, it was a perfect ending for that film where the Ravagers showed up and there was a thing. Because if he doesn't die, I mean, it's you pretty much have a happy movie. And I think
Smooth pulling the heartstrings, man.
a good friend of mine, I call him B Word, Brian. He's shout out to him. He watches all the time, and he got in a talk with me that the MCU is killing off too many villains and such. And I don't think that's true. I think it's a breath of fresh air for us comic book fans to see these people dying because it relates it more to like real life, which is what we like in these films, is that we want it to be relatable, and we don't want a character to just never die and get through everything and go through forever and ever and ever. Things need to end.
Sure.
And it makes sense. Instead of keeping them alive and then going, well, what if they made 8 films instead, and they're getting like in their 50s and they don't want to do these films anymore? You cut them off.
Like Hugh Jackman.
And it made the film even better because it closed up that storyline, and it seemed like, you know, Yondu was really there for Star-Lord and stuff, and that's I think what like was the perfect climax.
It made yeah.
It's sad, but it makes sense.
Oh yeah, I mean I love him back, but I hope they don't bring him back just because that death needed to have a meaning, and it did.
I think if they did, it would just be backflash. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, and I watched an interview with Gunn. He was talking about that he is dead for good, and the only way he would ever come back if it was like a flashback or a prequel thing or like, you know, or something. But no, he is dead from now on.
Well, thank God, and at least Gunn's not going to go that route. Like, oh, like some villain found him floating around in space, and then brought him back to trick Star-Lord, and
he wanted to because Michael Rooker and him are best friends.
Yeah.
And he said it was the hardest thing for him to write was killing his best friend.
Kill your best friend, man.
And he said, but he knew that the story needed it, and it definitely wrapped it up very well.
So overall, sorry, you know, guys, we always have to have a little spoilers because, you know, it's been out for a while. If you haven't seen it, you know, you need to go do it. But
one of my tiny little issues was, it was like, what, 30 years? 20 some years or whatever when his dad was met with mom. It was like whatever. They showed him behind the Dairy Queen. No one found that stupid plant.
Oh yeah, that I
It's not like it was hidden. It was right out in the open.
Well, maybe they built a Walmart over it. Maybe like everything.
They showed the same Dairy Queen.
Or, no, they were probably Walmart. Just like Walmart. I think they bought the land and they were gonna build a Walmart there. And nobody's allowed on that property. Just the Walmartians, and that's it. That's what happened. The Walmart people were taking over. So let's blame it on that. No, that was a stupid. See, now you're making me think about the little things that were dumb.
After 20 whatever years, no one found it.
There was another thing that Gunn said he messed up on. Now
it was the Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah, that he put one before the other.
This is only like 3 months later from the first movie, and his cameo happens, you know, like the year later or whatever.
But then you can also argue that they're they could be going through time warps,
right? That's true.
And as long as they don't make Stan Lee a watcher, I'm happy. That was a great cameo. That was one of the best scenes ever. But if the theory that's out there is that he's a watcher,
they're saying that he's possibly like he's working with them.
Well, that'd be fine. That's how they gave him like the ideas to create everything or whatever. But if he is a watcher, I'm sorry, that's stupid, Marvel. That's something that'll piss me off.
I don't know. That'd be all right, I guess.
Well, overall, great film though.
Yeah,
great film. 9.5. Phil Heads, what did you give it?
I mean, I'll give it. I give it a 9.
Okay. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this, guys. Thanks for watching. You know, tune into the next Toy King's Table. We're going to talk about more stuff like this. Let us know in the comments if there's anything, you know, that you thought about the movie or other reviews you want to see. And we will see you next time on Toy Kings.
See you later, guys.